Waiting on everybody to
Singing
come
is not your
in.
strong suit. I'm about to fix it.
So we're just waiting for people to come in.
We got
Okay.
zero.
I got to. Welcome on
Too
in,
many
everybody.
you.
Welcome on in. Come on in. Come on in. Who we got in the chat today? For real, there. I would do that, but I ain't got no hair.
No, it was itching. And I said, come on.
Oh, I was like, what in the world is that? Oh. 3 people. Hey, as y'all coming on in the chat, if you notice that it's actually pinned is the PowerPoint that we're going to go over. So if you want to jump into that, just take a look at it. We're going to go by that, actually some questions, do a little bit of crowd participation, audience participation, get y'all a little more involved. Just trying to get a little more feedback. At any time you have questions, just holler at us. That's what we're here for. Today, we're going to be talking about trauma, addiction, and recovery. So again, trauma, addiction, recovery. So far, you have on me, Eric Whiteside. What up, Crackshot? What up, what up, what up? You got me, you got Dr. Whiteside. Hey, Crackshot, just to let you know, I had a Stop the Bleed course over the previous weekend on Saturday, and I actually showed 2 guys your IFAC, and I gave them your business card. So they may be hitting you up. Not sure yet, but they may be hitting you up because they were very interested in that. And what they said was they actually had some good feedback. They were talking about how your IFAC and Warrior Poet Society were pretty much the same, but they like yours better because it was a little more feasible. So very good input on that. So pushing it out there to them. So again, we have another course coming up because we just got approved to be an NAEMT training center. Yay! So we're going to be pushing a lot more, especially TECC courses, as well as a few of our first on the scene courses, some other things. So we're definitely be pushing your IFAC. So just a heads up on that. Hope we get some feedback soon. Thanks, Rex. I think we trying. We really trying. Really trying. Dick, why are you so quiet?
Oh, man, I'm letting you talk.
Oh, my bad. So yeah, we're just pretty excited about that. That's one thing, something different. So we're bringing, especially to the side of town we are, where we're located on. Nobody's actually offering these type of courses. The closest one, I think, Derek, you did a view of it. I think the closest one's like what, an hour and a half away from where we actually do ours, about 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
So yeah,
about an hour.
So
it's not even close enough.
Yeah. Yep. So we definitely be pushing your IFAC. I mean, it's so convenient too. You put on your battle belt, makes it a whole lot easier than the regular big belt, regular big pouches. So definitely a good thing. Y'all come on in. Let us know who's in here. So again, like I said before, we're going to be talking about trauma, addiction, and recovery. Think of Dr. Coy may show up. Not sure. Dr. Kathy was unable to actually attend today. She had a meeting to go to, so she's unable to attend again. They're on the West Coast, like Dr. Whiteside, they're on the West Coast, so it's about 5 something there. For us on the East Coast, it's only, hey, Irvin, on the East Coast, only over here is 8 o'clock for us. There we go. What up? What up?
So
we're going to talk about trauma, addiction, and recovery. We're going to hit it off with our welcome, purpose of the live, quick personal story insight, and why the discussion is actually critical. So that's one of the things. Why in the world is this discussion actually critical? For a moment, can we talk for a moment? That's what we're looking at. I was singing, but Dr. Whiteside told me I'm not allowed to sing. Go ahead and sing it, Derek.
I ain't got no voice. We twins. We both garbage.
Got kicked out of church choir. So one thing here we'll talk about. It says here, can we talk for a minute? Why are you tuning in for? Where are you tuning in from today? So just give us a shout out for those that are in the chat. Give us a drop of whatever state, country, wherever you're located. Where are you tuning in for us today? Like I'm in the state of Georgia. Dr. Whiteside's in Nevada. Is it Nevada? Nevada.
Nevada.
Nevada. Nevada. Nevada. Nevada. So where are y'all tuning in from? Colorado, south of Denver. I think we got a base over there. What base is that? Fort Carson. I think Fort Carson. So I think Fort Carson is actually Carson is over there. Yeah, I think that's where it is. So
We got the
you
Air
got
Force
that
Academy.
For real? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Look, I switched from the Air Force
You
to the
slow.
Army, so I went from good to bad. So, glove for punishment. On a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest, and we know this is the start of the week, what is your mental health this week? So, if you think about sit back just for today alone, and you can reflect back to over the weekend, with 10 being the highest, 1 being lowest, what is your mental health for this week, or what is your battery rank? Is it a 1, very low, or is it close to a 10? I mean, I just, like I said, I'm a school teacher, so mine is out of 9 right now. Dealing with these kids, coming back from spring break, mine is out of 9. I was at a 10, now it's out of 9. What about you all? Where's your battery located? Is it about an 8, 9, 10, 11? What we have? What about you,
Now,
Dr.
when you say it being the highest, what you mean by as in being in a good mood or not in a
Yes,
good mood?
being in a good mood. 10 being the highest as being in a good mood.
I'm 10 all day long. I don't let nobody get to me. You know, grandma said, don't worry, don't stress, or to make you old and grow gray hair. Too late for the gray.
Too late. I got too much gray. I cut the hair off, so this right here.
I hear you, crack shot.
Trust me, I understand. Think about just two of us. So yeah, I truly understand that. Plus, I have twins of my own, and oh my goodness, 4-year-old twins. You're trying to put them to bed. It's like a fight every night, and that's one of the draining things. Having kids is a joy, but at the same time, it's so tiring. That is true. It is so tiring. Here, have you ever? So those in the chat, have you ever attended a live like this before? And if so, what are some good things you got out of that live? And if you never attended, what are some, or if you have attended, what are some, so I say that again. If you ever attended a live similar to this or any type of live dealing with mental health, what are some good things you got out of it? And what are some bad things? And what are some things you would like to see going into this live? Just a thought. Just trying to get a little more crowd participation. Like for us, this is new to me, talking about mental health. That's one of the hot topics nowadays anyway. So looking at this, I have a battery life of about 9 right now, just the beginning of the week. Never done a live like this, so it's very interesting. Dealing with Dr. Kathy, listen to her because that's her avenue. Man, dropped a lot of good knowledge. And I love to hear stuff like that, considering I really don't even talk about mental health, especially being a guy I literally just buried on in. That's something that I do. So what about you all? See what we got here. Able06 says, good is the contact information. Okay, bad is a lack of resources in the area. Okay, I truly understand that. Crackshot, what did you say? He said you have to give yourself some grace in those stressful moments. That is so true. We can't handle them all perfectly, and that's okay. That is correct. That is so true.
Yeah.
So true. So, anybody else?
I like that one. Yeah, people, when you're in a stressful situation, you try to do the best you can with what you have at that moment in time. When you sit back and can finally relax and think back on that situation, maybe you could have handled it different, but you never know. I mean, it's one of those, you're just calling it Monday night quarterbacking. Yeah, Monday night quarterbacking on a Sunday night game. You already know what happened, and then you're coming back saying, well, you should have done this, this, and that. But during that time, everything is a lot different because it's all live. So, no, I like that crack shot. Yeah, but you just got to be able to sit back, relax, take a moment for yourself. As parents, as adults, especially here in the U.S., we don't sit back. We don't take our time. Everything is a go, go, go. It's all about the money, all about the hustle and bustle, never sit down. If you look like you're sitting down relaxing, that means you're weak, you're not doing stuff. That's kind of the perception I've been seeing. Definitely in the medical field, being a doc, we're always on the go. We take a lot of stress from the outside, but the thing is that we just have to learn how to deal with it the best we can.
Yep, you got that. Hey, Gina, how are you? Thank you for dropping by. We're just chatting up a little bit. For real there. We're just chatting up a little bit about mental health. We hit to where everybody's tuning in from. Said me, I'm coming from Georgia. Dr. Whiteside's Nevada. Crackshot, who's on here, is actually here from Colorado area. So we're just talking a little bit about that and just getting a little bit of feedback. We were also talking about on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. Since it's the beginning of the week, what is your battery life right now? What is your ranking? Are you a 10, even though it's the start of the week? Are you a 9, an 8, or what is Ohio? Hey, or what exactly is your battery at this moment? Again, it's the start of the week. So just thinking about that. And also, we was talking about, have you ever attended a live like this? And if so, if you ever attend one, what are some good things you got out of it, or some bad things you got out of it, or what are some things you want to see, not maybe from us or from anybody when we're dealing with mental health? Because again, that's one of the things we really don't even talk about. We don't talk about mental health a lot. And I know on your lives, I love your lives. Catch them on Sundays. I love your lives. And it helps refresh what we've done over the week and give that mindset Sunday of getting prepared for the week coming up. So I do love that. And that's why I tune in. It helps me refresh and get me ready to tackle on the new week. So thank you for those lives. Okay. So with that said, let's take it on here. Emoji time. So when it comes to the emoji, I want you to drop either a cloud or a food or some type of emoji symbol if you ever turn to food when feeling stressed, because we know there's stressful eaters out there. When you get stressed, some people do stress eating. So with that said, you can drop a cloud, a comment, or some type of emoji saying, hey, when I get stressed, I may look into food. Not saying I'm addicted to food, but I may look into food. For me, I do. I go to cookies. I ain't gonna lie. Chocolate chip cookies or Chips Ahoy is the biggest one that I actually go into. So that's one of the ones where I'm a little stressed. That's what I eat. What about you, Dr. Whiteside?
For me, the most stress I've been was during medical school. I actually went to the weight room. That's the sad part about it. I didn't do any overeating, anything like that. Mine was the weight room. So I ended up putting on a lot of size, muscle mass just from the stress, lifting heavy. But the bad part was it was putting more pressure on my joints. So that's kind of what I did. Now, I'm too lazy. I will grab a cookie or two, but going to the weight room to work out.
Okay. Chips. What type of chips? When you say chips, is that like what is it? Tortilla chips? Is it the ones with the salsa? I like the lemon.
Doritos.
I like lemon flavored ones. Or is it lemon flavored?
Oh, you know what? During the pandemic, when a lot of people were stressed, it was Doritos. And it was sad because you could not keep Doritos in stock on any of the shelves in a lot of the stores, especially what was it? Your BJ's, your Sam's, your Costco's. Man, they were selling out fast.
Oh, wow. See, I didn't even know that. That's crazy. What about this? Type yes if you believe trauma and addiction are connected. So when you think about it, reflect back to your day, back to your younger days, and even now, if you believe trauma and addiction are connected. So we got a few yeses in there. Yes, I feel that yes, they are connected. So I do feel they are connected. Anybody else? Okay. That's one thing that we like to talk about. We're actually going to tackle that today. And drop a heart. Drop a heart if you believe mental health should be talked about more openly. So if you think about it, we don't talk about it as much. So do you think mental health should be talked about more often? I had to drop in my little heart right there. Pew. Ava 6 just said, type the word heart.
Got the kids hugging themselves.
There we go. We talk about, oh, hi, resident. How are you? Thank you for coming by. Thank you for coming by. You have here, we have to drop the stigma and lean on one another. That is so true. That's one of the things that we actually have to focus on, which is very difficult. As men, women are a little more open with it than men, but that's one of the things. So yes, we do have to do that. Definitely, definitely, definitely. So with that said, we're going to jump straight into a welcome purpose of the live. The purpose of this live is pretty much just to get our feet wet and continue on when talking about mental health. Now, when it comes to a quick personal story or insight, I don't have anything, to be honest with you, when it comes to that part. Dr. Whiteside, did you have anything about that one?
No, personal story insight.
If you don't, you don't.
Not a personal story.
Okay.
No, I would say more of coming from a male standpoint. This is why, yeah, I talked to Dr. Kathy. She ended up having a medical emergency in the family. So that's why she couldn't join. I just got her message. When it comes to personal story, not really that. More just you see as males and the way we're taught when we're growing up, we're taught to keep our emotions in check, not to talk about our feelings. If as a male you talk about your feelings, you're considered weak. You're considered not a real man versus nowadays when you can actually talk about it more openly, but still it's that stigma of being a male and not wanting to talking about your feelings and just any type of trauma that you might have experienced. It's just the scar of the trauma is supposed to make you more of a man, a manly man, which I completely disagree with it because the scar of the trauma actually makes you less likely to open up to your significant other. And that is not a good thing. That's definitely not what you want.
Okay. So it's like James talk about. I talk about this a lot. We have a tendency to not talk about things, worrying about judgment, which is so true. Sharing can be the first step of healing, in my opinion. Excellent job. That is true. Sharing is one of those. That's why it's so important when it comes to this discussion here, dealing with mental health. So when we talk about it, we take a look here. It talks about the link between trauma and addiction, how unresolved trauma affects the brain, emotional coping and self-medication, and the role of PTSD in substance and food addiction. So, Dr. Whiteside, do you want to hit this real quick?
Sure. So let's go with unresolved trauma and how it affects the brain. So you're looking at the unresolved trauma, is how it causes a negative impact on the body itself. So with the trauma, you're looking at increased stress. Increased stress releases cortisol, getting a little technical, that will actually slow the body's response down, which will then negatively impact your entire health system, causing you increased chances for infections, increased chances for really your body breaking down because it's constantly stressed. So you'll hear about people that's been under a lot of unresolved trauma or just trauma itself. And when they go to a specialist, either an addiction person or a counselor, after they talk about it for a while, they actually start alleviating the stress or the trauma they've been harboring. And you'll see that their entire outlook, but just their overall complexion starts to improve. So that's one thing that how it negatively impacts you. You're looking at emotional coping and self-medication. People tend to go to medication to help them feel better, actually get back to the way they were. People want to be happy generally. Nobody really wants to be in a negative mood all the time. So you're looking at medications. My downfall, I can't say downfall, the thing I don't care for is that, yes, there's always medications for pretty much anything in life. But the problem is that every medication comes with a side effect. And there's always some good, some bad. I'm definitely not a fan of putting people on meds if we can work through the emotional stress or the trauma or whatever it is, the underlying cause. Dr. Coy said on several of the lives before is that, and I agree, you want to get to the root of everything. You want to figure out what is the underlying cause. There's always these little branches going all over the place. Then you have, looking at the tree, you have the main part of the tree, and then you have the roots. Well, you want to make sure you clean up the roots and get that where it should be. Get rid of all the dirty, the negative, the stuff that's not good for you. You get rid of that, you have a healthy tree, just like our body itself. Inside our body, we need to get rid of and release all the negative so that we can actually flourish and do better as a human being.
Okay. So correction, I say that cortisol is a bad mofo, which is so true. Triggers a mental state that is a rough cycle that gets addicting all in itself. So that is true when it comes to that part. Now, knowing for you because you're actually dealing with patients on a daily basis. When it comes to the self-medication portion of it, I know you say you didn't like to actually prescribe medications, but when you think about jumping into the third, we're talking about PTSD and things of that nature. Do you find that because they have PTSD that you have to prescribe, or that is strongly recommended that you prescribe some type of medication to help them out? Or because I know like Dr. Coy said he likes the holistic, and Dr. Kathy Lay like the holistic approach. And I know you like that as well, but do you see on some aspects that you have to do the medication portion first and then try to taper off?
Yes. Yeah. If it's to the point where the holistic is not working or they're just too far, I hate to say emotionally damaged, but traumatized, then yes, I will definitely put them on medication. That way we can just get everything to kind of trying to figure out the best word to equal out so we can get to a starting ground. And then from there, we work on just the counseling. As a physician, I'm not a true counselor. I didn't go to school for the role of counseling, but there are things that we're taught that we just sit there and talk to somebody. And to be honest, counseling is good, but what you're doing as counseling is you're actually talking. It's a communication. You're going back and forth. And for me as a physician, and we don't do it often, and I say that in several of our lives, is that as a physician, we don't take time to even get to know our patient. Me personally, I like to sit. I like to get to know my patient. I like to get to understand what's going on with them, because I know my treatment regimen or whatever treatment regimen I want to put them on will be affected by whatever is happening to them and their lifestyle. So when it comes to the PTSD, I just have to figure out, okay, what was the cause of the trauma? I will talk to them to see, do they want to talk to me about it? As an acupuncturist, I actually have this one procedure, which we call as dragons. And people think dragons, oh, they're very bad, but they're actually very beautiful, mystical creatures. So with dragons, this particular procedure, you have your good dragons good and negative dragons, or positive negative dragons. So when we do acupuncture, we actually do this procedure where we have the person, I have to say, relive the situation, but we have them think about the situation as we're doing the acupuncture and applying the needles. And we hook it up to stimulation. And after so much time, we take those needles out, put it in a different area, and then we have them think about it again. But those particular areas that we put the second set of needles in, it actually alleviates some of the stress they have. I've done that to several of the patients I've had, anywhere from sexual assault to deployment and seeing their fellow members killed. And then I have one lady who comes in where I actually do acupuncture. I put it in her head, and it's for depression. But for her, she loves it. And it's a calming type of effect where you actually place the needles and alleviate some of the stress. So just to sum it up, yes, if I have to put them on medication, I will, but I will discuss it with the patient and go with the pros and cons and see if that is something they want to be on. It's almost a 50-50. Half the patients are fine with being on it, the other half do not want to be on it. So it's just working it as a team and just getting to figure out what is it they actually want to do, and it's coming to a common ground. I'm also realistic in letting the patient know my job is not to make this all disappear in a matter of minutes. This is something that took time to happen, and it's going to take time for it to actually alleviate. So I tell them to bear with me and give me months of just talking and working through this to alleviate some of the stress that they have.
Cool. Rick, residents talking about personally, I feel there's a push to put people on meds instead of talk therapy, which like Dr. Weiss, I was saying, I truly believe that it's one of those where it's like, hey, let's go and push the meds real quick because we don't have time. It's more of a numbers game. We got to cycle everybody in and out, like Dr. Weiss, I was saying. You don't have enough time to get to know people, but that's gonna be one of the biggest things. And you as a customer or consumer is to advocate for your health. Like, no, you're going to listen to me. You're going to talk to me and basically say, I need you to listen and get to know me because you're supposed to take care of me. You got to advocate of your health. So I truly believe there's a big push for that. And that's one of the biggest things, try to avoid all that medication. So yeah, I do like that. Now I know you, Dr. Garcia, we're talking about PTSD. So have you noticed an uptick in PTSD currently with, I won't say with this administration, but after COVID, do you notice there's an uptick in the PSD now after COVID, or is it about the same?
I won't say there's an uptick. I would actually say there is more acknowledgement of it and more screening for it. So it seems like there's an uptick, but it's always been there. A lot of people didn't want to talk about their mental health, but you have Simone Biles that talked about her mental health. You have,
Right.
I'm going blank on a guy that plays, one of the NBA players that sat out for a year because of his mental health. You have several football players that will sit out because of their mental health. So that's something that's now being spoken of. I won't say there's an uptick, but there's more awareness and people are speaking out about it.
Right. And that's one thing I love, because they have a bigger platform. And I love that they have a bigger platform. And when it comes to that they push it out there more. I would say we're more the common person, so you don't hear our word as much. But when you have the people with the bigger platform and they're pushing out, like Simone Biles, one of the biggest ones, where she's pushing it out there, we love that, because now it brings more awareness to what's going on. So I definitely do love that. So yes, Erica talked about right here. She says, I now see my trauma as my story to help someone else. That is true. That's what I like. I see some of the stuff that I went through as a paramedic, and I use that as a story to help those that may face same or similar situations. So yes, I do understand that. Okay.
Yeah, anybody else? I want to say, hey, Erica, I bet, and let me know if I'm wrong, just jump in the chat. I'm sure as you talked about the trauma that you endured, the more and more you talked about it, the better and better you've been feeling, where people are able to relate to you, but you continue to feel a sense of relief and a sense of prosper, because you're now able to, you're on the other side where you can talk about it, discuss, and continue to move and heal from it.
All right, Dr. Whiteside, can you take this real quick? I got to put BK to bed real quick. Sorry about that, people.
No, that's fine. So we're going to look at the impact. So depression, anxiety, and addiction cycles. So really when it comes down to it, a lot of people will get the anxiety, depression. They'll say it's one or the other, but there are a group of people that actually suffer from both. And with that, there is an underlying cause. We just got to figure out what the underlying cause is. Is it from the trauma in their life as a child when they were growing up? Some people might have it growing up in a single parent household that didn't have the father or the mother, or their parents. One of the parents might have been on drugs, or one of the parents might have gotten killed early, or somebody close to them might have died. So that's some of the stuff that you actually think about, but then you wonder, how does it affect them? Some of them suffer from depression from it. Some of them just get real anxious. And some of them, like I said, have the combination of the both. What the downfall to that is that it can lead to addiction. And people think of addiction as mainly drugs. And with the drugs, yes, it could lead to drugs, but it actually leads to somebody looking for a sense of relief. If you do not have an outlet, which is the bad part, then you're kind of stuck with that. You're stuck trying to say, how can I alleviate this stress, this depression, anxiety, this feeling that I have? How can I escape from it? So yeah, some people will go to drugs because that's their way of escaping from it. Some people do go to alcohol because it gives them that feeling of, I don't feel like I'm here anymore. And we talk about food. Some people go to food because it just comforts them. They feel better while they're eating the food. But all these are just coping mechanisms, but it doesn't treat the underlying cause. It's really coming down to sitting and talking to somebody. The other thing is that depending on where you live in your particular community, you may or may not see the lack or abundance of facilities that you can go to for assistance. And that's something that's very common. I know more in the affluent areas, they will have the resources that they need, but in the less affluent areas, they will not have all the resources. You will see more of your liquor stores or some of the negative food or negative places that will not give you what you need. So that leads down to the second section, because there is the connection between food addiction and emotional trauma, kind of what I just talked about. So people do go to food. It's not a good thing. And people say, well, I'm eating healthy. Well, too much of a good thing is a bad thing. You can eat healthy per se, but it's all about portion size, portion control. What are you actually eating? You can eat your fruits, your veggies, but you still want to take that within a reasonable amount, because too much of it, you're going to actually start gaining weight from it. And you're thinking, well, I'm eating healthy. You are, but you're eating too much, which is actually damaging yourself. And then from that, especially if you connect the middle one and the top one to the very bottom, your medical consequences,
Yep.
You're looking at heart disease, developmental heart disease, obesity, liver damage. Really, like I said earlier, it is from the cortisol release in the body that's negatively impacting you. And people say, well, stress. Yes, stress is a killer. It is definitely a killer. We call it a silent killer, but it's not actually silent, because there are people who know that they're stressed, but they don't really say anything out loud. But you're not doing your normal routine. You're doing certain things to avoid specific situations. That itself is letting you know that you're being stressed. You're always on a heightened awareness. That is yourself as you're being stressed. When we think about that, that culminates, and then it starts to cause damage and breakdown to the body. So you're looking at just increase in joint pain, muscle pain. Just the body is just going haywire because you have all these chemical releases that the body's not used to, and those chemicals have to go somewhere. So they start going to different parts of the organ, which starts causing the damage. So yeah, like I said, all three of those are related, and you see how each individual section builds upon each other to ultimately start causing breakdown in the body.
Yep, I have to agree with that. Medical consequences as a paramedic, that's a lot of stuff we face. We have common calls for chest pains, heart attack, things of that nature. So yes, that medical consequences, especially when it comes to the addiction or depression, or even that cycle, like Dr. Whiteside in that very first bullet, that's one of the biggest things. And then some people look to the bottle. It may not be the pills, it may be the alcohol. And that's what we face with too, with the liver damage, picking up patients that are jaundice or having problems with the liver. So yeah, that's definitely it. I have to agree with you on that one. Erica say, yep, I will overwork and not eat right to deal with my stress at times. And Erica, you ain't the only one. I ain't gonna lie to you. You ain't the only one. Like for me, if I'm stressed, I hit it harder in the gym, because it's like I want to take that pain or take that anger out on the weights. And if I'm hurting, it's like whatever. I want to hurt. I want to feel that good hurt, but I want that stress to leave the body. And that's just my way of slinging the weights around to help relieve that stress. So, yep, I agree. I agree with you on that. I agree with you. Great job. Yep. So here it says, have you or someone you know ever struggled with trauma or addiction? Now, when it comes out, y'all in the chat, you ain't got to answer. You don't have to answer. Don't feel like you have to answer. But if you think about it, think about it in your mind. Think about your coworkers. Think about your friends, your frenemies, your enemies. Have you or someone you know ever struggled with trauma or addiction? So don't think because they have trauma, they have addiction, or because they have addiction, there's trauma. So it can go hand in hand, or it can be separate. So if you just ponder that for about 15 seconds, think about your work environment. Do you know someone, or have you witnessed someone ever struggle with either trauma or addiction? Now with that, looking at that second bullet, do you think food affects your mood or stress levels? How do you think about that? So when you think about, do you think food affects your mood? Yes, it affects your mood. And there's, when it comes to that, there's different types of food. So in the chat, spit it out, yell it out, whatever you want to do. Do you think food affects your mood? And if you think so, explain to us. What do you mean by that when you say you think food affects your mood? We talked about that previously when you consume certain types of food. Let's say you're taking in too much red meat, something of that nature, it bogs down your digestive system. So what do you think about that? What foods you think actually affects your moods? What makes it more negative? Because Dr. Coy talked about that earlier when we dealt with that scale. If you stay in the green, you're good. If you're going to the red, that's going more to the bad side. So what types of food you think affects your mood for good or bad?
Well, let's just keep it simple. You're looking at your simple carbs. Those are the bad ones for you. So everything, when you go to the grocery store, if it's within reach, then those tend to be the bad ones. The ones from your knee down, those are really the bad ones because it's in the grasp of children. Usually your candy, your what is it called? Your chips, You're just easy on the go food. Yep. Walt said it, cake and ice cream. Yeah, all those within reach, but they're very simple. You think not much of it, but when you eat too much of it, you're actually giving yourself bad energy. So you're not giving yourself the fuel that you need, that your body needs to be able to continue to function. So instead of, let's say you're going to the gas station, you have, let's say you have a Bugatti, let's put it like that. And you know you're supposed to put a certain type of gas in. You're supposed to use 97 or something crazy, the high level, but you end up putting 83 in. Your car is not going to run the same. It's the same with your body. Your body wants the better food, the higher level food, to be able to function. When you eat that lower level of food, which tends to be just a bunch of junk, your whole system starts to slow down to the point it almost crashes. You're not able to think as well. You're not able to move around as well. You're sluggish, which causes you to become more depressed. But then you become more depressed. It's a cycle. So then you start eating the same type of junk. So you hear your docs always say, we need you to get out. We need to exercise. You have to change your diet, which you do in essence, but you need to change it to the good where you're actually bringing in good fuel. That's the thing we want. We want you to bring in a good fuel. You bring in a good fuel, the brain can start functioning. Your mood actually starts changing because you don't have all the processed foods that somebody said that brings you down. You're able to rev up your metabolism, which helps rev up your system, and you're functioning better.
Yep. I can't remember. I forgot who live. I'm not sure it was on Gina's live, Erica live. It was on somebody's live where they did, not sure if it was you all, somebody did a juice diet or a juice cleanse, I should say, for about 3 or 4 days. And I remember that, and they said afterwards, again, it may not be y'all's, but it was somebody's. And afterwards they felt more refreshed because it cleaned out the system. Again, they got the nutrients that they needed, but it helped clean out the system. So I do like that. Here. I always feel better and think clearer when I work. I need better. So yeah, that's so true. Sorry, off task. So yes, doing juice, going there, or fasting of some kind, getting rid of the processed foods, because like Urban said earlier, when there's too much processed food, it makes our body sluggish, and that hits the different receptors in the brain, the dopamine receptors in the brain. So it slows the body down, makes us sluggish, makes us tired. So removing a lot of those processed foods will help rejuvenate the body, going to more your leafy greens. And if you don't know, check out Urban or even Gina when it comes to that, because they're heavy into the gardening, which I'm thinking about getting into. I have the seeds, I just haven't started yet. I don't know what's holding me back, laziness probably. But that's one thing, growing your own vegetables, because you know what you're putting in them. You know there's no bad chemicals, anything of that nature in there. So it's a little healthier for you all. So yeah, think about that. Here, a resident's talking about, in addition to good foods, do vitamins work? So, Doc, you want to hit that real quick?
Yeah, vitamins are good, but it's based on this. And my wife gets on me all the time because I do take different vitamins. If you eat a well-balanced meal, you're going to get the vitamins and the nutrients you need. So you're going to get your vitamin B, your vitamin D, your vitamin C, your zinc, your magnesium, your manganese, your B12, your folate. So you'll get a lot of that in a well-balanced diet. I mainly tell people who do not eat a well-balanced diet, which is majority of the U.S. population, then yes, you need to take vitamins. That helps supplement the nutrients you are missing. So yes, vitamins are good for you. I won't say they're good for you. I want to say they're not bad for you, but too much of it can be bad. But yeah, they're good for you. But I don't want people to take vitamins because they want to avoid a certain food group. That's where I'm coming from with that.
Okay, got that. You have your essentials and your non-essential amino acids. There's some amino acids you can actually obtain from your food, and there's some amino acids that is hard to obtain for your food. So we have to look for an external resource or source for that, and that's where the vitamins come into play. So yeah, perfect job on that. Here, breaking free, steps to overcoming addiction, recognizing triggers and patterns, seeking professional help, therapy, counseling, and alternative coping mechanisms. So hitting the first one, when you think about it, recognizing triggers and patterns. So not more say the addiction part, but just in general, recognizing triggers. What are some triggers, or when you're about to be stressed or feel like you're about to start getting overwhelmed or stressed, what are some triggers that you notice, or what are some indications like, hey, this is a trigger, I know I'm about to be stressed, there's something that I need to do to avoid this stress? Dr. Whiteside, for you, dealing with the medical aspect of that, what do you recommend for your patients? While the chat just type in what they talk about when it comes to the triggers, what are your medical opinion about that when it comes to that part? What do you recommend?
It's just really noticing what I hate to say noticing the triggers, but understanding it. We're as humans, we're smart. We know what we like, what we don't like. We know what encourages us and makes us better. We know what will tear us down. So that's the same thing as just being around negative people or positive people. You want to be around like-minded people, but you don't want it where you don't want these people to bring you down. So nobody likes to be around negativity. I'll just be honest. You want to be around people that will do positive things. You want to move your social group around what you're looking to accomplish. So you're looking at, okay, if this person in particular likes to drink alcohol, I don't really care for that. So I'm going to move myself away from that. Knowing that if you know that a group of people always go to this area at this time of day, or these people go to lunch here all the time on certain days of the week, well, that's a pattern. You know that. So you already recognize that pattern. You want to avoid it if you're trying to change the situation you're in. You also notice like I said earlier, just the triggers and what's causing you to do what you're doing. So these are really people paying attention to what's really taking place. That's what I got to say.
Okay. Erica says, I exercise and I have a journal. That's one thing I should do, but I know I don't. I just did a self-love cleanse. Hey, I like that for the pink moon. So I do like that. That's a good thing. Just focusing on yourself. And like Dr. Whiteside said, getting away from those triggers. Here, Gina talking about, I recognize my triggers. I try to engage in something that gives me joy, like going for a walk or gardening. So that is true. That is true. Like I said, I'm gonna get in that gardening. Don't hold your breath on it, but I'm eventually get into it. Resident said, find a hobby to help cope, i.e. painting or gardening. Yep. I ain't gonna lie. I tried painting before. I got so frustrated when it comes to paint, even coloring. I was talking to Dr. Whiteside and Dr. Coy about that. They have the adult color books and I try to color. Yeah. Once I slightly get out of line, I'm frustrated. So I get frustrated with that. One of my coping mechanisms, like say when it comes to that last bullet, alternative coping mechanisms, I like to exercise. One thing I like to exercise, and it's weird for me because I make tumblers. And it's funny because I make a lot of tumblers and I take them to school. I make them for people. I do some for a fee or whatever. And my coworkers be like, you do tumblers? I'm like, yeah, why? They're like, but you're a guy. I'm like, okay. And that's one of my coping mechanisms. I don't think I'm a perfectionist, but that's one of my coping mechanisms. I sit there, work my tumblers, and it's funny because when my kids come by and they see me working on my tumblers, they don't mess with me. They're like, Dad ain't working on tumblers to get away from him. We don't know what's going on. But that's my coping mechanism. I get there and it helps relieve that stress. And even if I mess up, I know I can fix it so it doesn't bother me when it comes to that part. But again, you just have to find something. You have to find something that helps relieve your stress when it comes to that. So if I know for me, for a fact, if something's going to trigger my stress, I try to get away from it. Hey, paint and sip. Yes, I agree with you on that. Paint and sip. I do a little more sipping and painting, but hey, it works. It does work. Now, when it comes to this part here, if you're comfortable, again, that's if you're comfortable, you don't have to share, but if you're comfortable, share one thing that's helped you on your path to healing. So again, if you're comfortable, you don't have to share, but if you're comfortable, share one thing that's helped you on your path to healing. For me, it would be the tumbler making. I've been doing this for 3 years, and my brother can tell you when I first started, he's like, what in the world is this? But it's improved, and that's actually helped me a whole lot. I sip and dance because I can't fake. Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that. Whatever helps the body out. So yeah, for me, if comfortable, share one thing that's helped you on your path to healing. For me, tumblers, doing tumblers, or I do a lot of our branding. So making t-shirts. doing different logos. So that's one thing that helps me on my path to healing when it comes to stress. I'm not going to say the addiction part. I did get addicted to making tumblers at one point, but I slowed down on that. But that's actually helped me on my path to healing. So here talking about what's talk about what I'm going through. Yep, talking about it. That's one thing. I keep everything bottled in. I'm still working on that. It's a God thing, I guess. Walt talked about, Urban said eating healthy, reading, volunteering helps me heal. I love that. Walt talked about not healed, which is true. It's a process. And that's one thing Dr. Corey talked about earlier, is not a straight path. Again, there's a lot of hills and valleys and things of that nature. So it's going to take a while to get there. So, which is true. Going to seminars to understand and have tools to grow. I love that. That is so true. Going to seminars to understand and have tools to grow. And here, Gina, I'm with you on that one. Well, you're not alone. One day at a time. That's what it is. 2 steps forward, you take a step back, then you keep pushing. That's why we're here. You got questions, holler at us. That's what we're here for as a tribe. If you have a tribe, get with your tribe, talk to them. And it all helps with the talking. I'm getting better with the talking. I don't do it as much, but I'm getting a little better with that. Erica says, healing, I try to help others with their problem. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. And we have Resident says, my help has been my family who support me through when things get tough. I love that. Family support is one of the biggest things. I do love that. Now here, think about this. What advice would you give someone dealing with trauma or addiction right now? And reflect back to earlier today where we talked about, think about somebody either in your family, a coworker, friend, or somebody that's going through trauma or going through an addiction. And jumping on this bullet right here, what advice would you give someone dealing with trauma or addiction right now? Me is one day at a time. Even mine is lending their ear. If you need somebody to talk to, holler at me. I'm right here. That's one thing. I got a bad memory, so you tell me one thing today, I may forget by the time we leave. But just talk. So that's one thing. What about you all? What advice would you give someone dealing with trauma or addiction right now? Okay, I love this. Try writing a letter to yourself about trauma and see how you feel afterwards. I love that because that's considered self-reflection. And as a teacher, I do that all the time. I write down what happened in class, what worked, what didn't work. So I never thought about doing that on the aspect of my life, but I always focus on that when it comes to teaching. But that does make sense. Write a letter to yourself about your trauma and see how you feel afterwards. So a few days later, read it, see how that works. I love that. Thanks, Erica. Anybody else? What else y'all got? So I love all of this that you're bringing up. Okay. Love this. Great job, Reza. I like that. It says, my advice, have patience and give it time. Again, Rome wasn't built in a day, and whatever you're going through is not going to be magically disappear. So it takes time. So I love that as well. Gina said it too. Definitely one day at a time. I'm here if they need an ear. I'm a good listener. So that's why we love these lives, because Gina talked about on her live last night. We're a family. If you need somebody to talk to, we're here for you. Just drop a line. We're always available. So if you want to talk, just talk to us. We're always here for you. And that's one thing. And for me, I don't sleep much. So you hit me up at 4:00 in the morning, I'm here. I'll talk to you. Oh, Erica. See there, Gina, you got that love. Say you are an amazing listener. She is sunshine. Hey, what's up? Be gentle and give yourself grace. Grace and mercy. That is correct. Be gentle and give yourself grace and mercy. I do love that. That is so true. That is so true. So reflective questions. Y'all know how I am. I'm a teacher. I'm sorry. I'm a teacher. So reflective questions. Think about what we've discussed so far on this live. What does healing look like for you? So if you think about it, take about 10 seconds. I know it's awkward silence on a live, but take about 10 seconds. What does healing look like for you? And then put in the chat if you want to put in the chat. What does healing look like for you? Put it in the chat. I know Walt say he's not healed. but one day at a time. So what does healing look like for you? For me, healing is, like say, it's one day at a time. Um, so healing, like for me, is the next day I wake up, I'm smiling. Something that stressed me before does not stress me as much now. She is Sunshine said, I do not advise anyone to call me after 10 from 10 p.m. to 8 p.m. unless it's dire. I like that. Healing, here it is. So we're talking about peace. So being at peace. And Dr. Whiteside talked about that as well. Getting away from anything that's disturbing your peace. So put it out of your life. I won't say totally out of life, but try to get away from it. So I like that. Peace and being non-reactive is healing to me. Hey, great job. I like that. That is so true. So true. Erica, what'd she say? Healing to me is forgiving the person that hurt me and getting rid of the doll. You talking about a voodoo doll? What are you talking about? Got a voodoo doll? I'm from Louisiana. Well, I say I live in Louisiana about 14 years, so know a little bit about voodoo. I don't practice it, but I know a little bit about it. Peace, forgiving, giving myself grace, and loving myself. So this is what I love. This is what we're talking about. Notice the common denominator. Everybody has talked about peace. That's one of the biggest things. You don't want anybody to disturb your peace. And if they do, you forgive them. Give yourself some grace and mercy about that as well. For Erica. That voodoo doll, I can't fool with you. I can't fool with you. Okay, so here we go. It says here, what's one small habit you started that helped your mental health? And again, that's one of the key words is mental health. What is one small habit that you started that's helped your mental health? When we talk about that, means that's helped ease your mental health, because we did a battery indicator at the beginning, where 1 being your battery is drained, 10 being you're full of energy. So think about your mental health. What is one small habit
So
you've
no,
done
we're
to
not
help
able to hide
restart?
this over here.
Derek, what you talking about? So what is one thing that you started that helped your mental health? So it says when you are no longer affected or triggered. I love it. Great. Here, working out. That's one of my biggest things, working out. While camping. And while I'm gonna let you know now, been going through stuff here. I wish I could have been there for that training with the Tribal Kings. I wish I could have been there because it looks so much fun. And be out there in the peace and in the woods. Love that. Taking time to myself. Hey, I like that. Take time for yourself. She is Sunshine said, praying, fasting, reading the Bible. I do that every morning. I get up about 4:30 in the morning. I'm like clockwork. Get about 4:30 in the morning. 4:45, I'm reading the Bible, my daily motivation. About 5 o'clock, I'm up and running, getting kids up and getting everything else out the way. So, yep. Here, exercise, meditation, turn it off phone at certain time, taking time off social media. Yes, ma'am. I love it, Urban. And praise and worship. We were talking about that earlier. Both Dr. Weiss and I were in church choir, and they kicked us off because we sung so well. So well. They like, y'all too good on that church choir. You got to get off. Okay, now we just couldn't hold it. We couldn't sing a lick. That's all it was. They like, okay, y'all are horrible. And this is church. It's a church choir. They're like, yeah, get off of the church choir. Y'all are horrible. But hey, it is what it is. Gita says self-care is so important, and what that varies from person to person. So yes, when it comes to that, it varies from person to person. So true. And one thing here, so looking at this one now. Well, I wish I had a PlayStation, but you know, if I had a PlayStation, I ain't gonna be playing a lot of combat games, so that wouldn't even be good for me. No, he did not go to bed. No, he didn't go to bed. He doing something. I don't know. He didn't go to bed. So here it says, what is the biggest challenge you face in your recovery or support journey? So reflecting back to what does healing look like for you, then thinking about that one small habit you started that helped your mental health. Then going to this one, what's the biggest challenge you face in your recovery or support journey? So what do you think about that? What is one of the biggest challenges you face in your recovery or support journey? And like we said before, we know, like Dr. Coy said, when it comes to that, there are hills, peaks, and valleys. So we have our ups and our downs. So we do have challenges. What is one of those biggest challenges you face in your recovery or support journey? For me, I can tell you my biggest challenge is getting rest. Getting rest, taking time to myself. Everything is focused on everybody else, pushing. I do take some time to myself when it comes to working out. She is sunshine. Biggest challenge, people. Yes, that is so true. It's the people. Or the fan call after hours. I don't even know about that either. Some people, it's like, I don't even want to be bothered with family because some of your family members had a victim mentality and they just wear you down. Says, stop worrying about the future and to focus on the now. Love it. Biggest challenge you face. Stop worrying about the future. Focus on the now. A lot of us some live in the future, some live in the now. So
my wife was asking about specific upgrades.
There.
And he was so funny about it. Oh, sorry.
Okay. That boy messed up. I'm all of family. Okay, so one of the biggest challenges is your family. I love this right here. It says, I made those settings because of family. Yeah, makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. And it says those are relatives that are family. When I told them, they didn't like it. Hey, it is what it is. And I can tell you, some family members could be some of the biggest ones to drain you, especially those with the woe is me. Every time you talk to them, there's always something wrong with them, and they literally drain your batteries. And you know, he's like, okay, so-and-so calling. I ain't got the energy for him today. I can't do it. So it makes sense. So those are some things you actually want to avoid. So I can't blame you on that. I truly understand that. So here, that's what it is. The professional victims, the victim mentality is always everybody's out to get me and things of that nature. Love it. So here it says free and low-cost therapy options, addiction helpline support groups, online community-based recovery programs. So we do have some of this, and we're going to show that in the next slide for you. So here, because we did talk about mental health, and again, I did pin this PowerPoint at the top of the chat. So you do have this available if you want to go back and look at it anytime. So mental health and trauma support. So you do have your National Alliance on Mental Health Illness, and you have your website, you have your hotline. You also have mentalhealth.gov with their website. Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration with their website, 1-800 number. So we have those. Food addiction, emotional eating, because we did talk about it. Dr. Whiteside did hit that as well when it comes to that part. Food addiction. So I did not know there was an actual website for that. And I learned that's something new for me when it comes to that. And there's a 12-step program for food addiction. I didn't know.
There's actually a counselor.
Really?
They have food addiction counselors. I had a patient who actually attended, it's almost like AA, and it's for food addiction. She attended that. She started to meet with her counselor. And when I say she lost weight because of her, from coming off of her addiction, oh man, it was actually an amazing process to see the weight of her transformation.
Cool. You got Overeater Anonymous, and you have the website here as well. Recover from compulsive eating using a 12-step model. So notice those two actually go together. Addiction recovery and substance abuse. When it comes to, like Dr. Weiss was talking about earlier, you have your AA, your Narcotic Anonymous, and your Smart Recovery. So you have all those as well. Again, all of these is pinned at the top of the chat, so they're available. So if you know someone that's actually going through this, that this is available. That's one thing I love. What do you say, Erica? Why you always gotta call me out on this? Why is it always me? Why can't it be Dr. Whiteside? It's not hour enough. You guys need to give us another 30 minutes. We just go with the flow. We go with the flow. And this big thing here when it comes to a holistic and self-care. And if you have a chance, take a screenshot of this. Like I say, it's already pinned at the top as well. BetterHelp, you have your paid therapy platform. You have your BetterHelp.com. You also therapy for Black girls, therapy for Black men. That's one thing as being in the Black and Brown group, that they don't seek mental health like they should. And we talked about earlier that there's not a lot of resources. So we're providing these resources. He's distracted. So we're providing these resources for you. So you have it right there. And then here, this is one thing I like. and Dr. Coy talked about this earlier. He said Insight Timer, free meditation wellness app. insighttimer.com. So if you have a chance to get to it, click on that link, insighttimer.com. That's one of the best ones. I won't say one of the best ones. That's one that I actually like. Here it says Urban talked about, I find bright lights help with wellness during winter seasons. Okay, that makes sense, because if you think about it, it gets darker earlier in the wintertime, and we know based on statistics that when it's darker, people get gloomier. So like if it's cloudy, you get sleepy and tired. The sun is what the sun producing the vitamin D help rejuvenate us. So do understand that. So the light does help us. Here we're talking about the crisis line. You have your 988 suicide and crisis. So text or call 988. You have your helpline 1-800-662-HELP, or that's 1-800-662-4357. You also have your crisis text. Text home, text HOME, or you text HOME to 741-741. So those are some different resources available for you. So with that said, we're going upon, I know, Eric, I'm sorry. With that said, we're going upon an hour. So this is what I want you to know. So just drop this in the chat real quick. Did today's session help you think differently about trauma or addiction? So if you think about that, think about today's session. We've been on for about an hour or 2 minutes. Did today's session actually help with you when it comes thinking about differently about trauma and addiction? And what resources mentioned today would you most likely try? Or what resources mentioned today would you most likely recommend or help with your coworkers? Say, hey, because you already got that one coworker that needs some help anyway. Not maybe trauma or addiction, or just get on your nerves. So these resources here. So what do you think about today's live? What do you think let me back up. So when it comes to today's live, what do you think differently, or do you think anything differently about trauma or addiction now? That pollen is disrespectful, especially in the Georgia. That pollen is so disrespectful. I'm not allergic to pollen, but my white car turns yellow, then close the door and it's all over my clothes. So yeah, that hits me hard. And okay. So anybody in the chat, when it comes to that, did today's session help you think differently? If it did, what thing or what would you bring from this? What is one thing you learned today that you may have not learned? So it's like a wrapping up. What is one thing you learned today you may have not learned, or one thing today that you actually liked or didn't like? It doesn't bother me. So good, bad, ugly. What is one thing from today's live that you liked or didn't like? Okay, I like that. Very helpful. Thank you so much. We try. Says I'll focus on not emotionally eating. And again, honestly, that's a big one. That's just a big one. There are certain foods that is our comfort, and we go straight to it. Like I say, mine is chocolate chip. Mine used to be donuts, but then when Krispy Kreme went up on donuts, my pocket's like, yeah, I can't feel that no more, because I used to sit there that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, about 15 years ago, I used to eat about 2 dozen. Not a problem. Yeah, 2 dozen cost you about $40 now. Ain't got the funds for that. Okay, so Walt says never thought about trauma before this. I like the open communication in chat. Thank you, Walt. It's what we do. We're here. We're here for you. This is what we like to do. Anybody else? Look, I don't know what happened to Dr. Whiteside. He may be asleep. Ain't no telling with that one. Okay, so final words of encouragement. Biggest thing here is what we said earlier, and I love that. Definitely love that. Earlier, what we said earlier: peace and mercy, peace, grace, and mercy. That's one of our biggest things. Have mercy on yourself. Have peace on yourself. Today's session, let me know how it's okay to take my me time. Yes, take your me time. Definitely take it. Definitely take it. So take your me time. Thank you for that, Eric. That actually helped with the final words of encouragement. Take your me time. Take time for yourself. That's gonna be one of the biggest things. Again, we talk to my coworkers all the time, and it's funny. We're like, "How was your battery?" And we're like, "Oh my goodness." When I first heard it, it's like, "Oh, leave me alone." But it started to make sense now. How is your battery? So is your battery full? If it's not full, what can we do, or what can you do to help recharge that battery? We talked about it earlier. Sunshine said earlier, it's people. So get away from the negativity people or those victim mentality people. Says the power of no. Got it. Love it. Love the power of no, because people are afraid to use the word no. Thank y'all for coming for this chat. Subscribe, like, share for more content. If there's something you want us to cover, let us know. Our next live, I wish Dr. Whiteside was available, but our next live, we're actually going to have a GYN on, and we're actually going to be talking about PCOS, because that definitely affects a lot of women. So we're going to talk about PCOS, what exactly is PCOS, endometriosis, and fibroids. So we're going to be hitting that our next live, which will probably be in about 2 weeks. We're going to try to drop a video about PCOS to explain what it is. Some people may know, some people are not familiar with it. So I want to introduce that, and then we're going to hit that hard as well. Yes. Whiteside, yeah, it is in our bio. Let me see if I can drop that link, because Lord knows I'm doing everything right now. I don't know what happened to Dr. Whiteside. So that is our email right there. That is our info@whitesidetacticalsolution.com is our email address. If you want to see our website, or if you want to hit us up on our website, because we do a lot of different trainings, and we talked about crack shot preparedness about that earlier. whitesidetacticalsolutions.com is our website. And if you want to follow us on Instagram, because we do a lot of interesting things. So if you want to follow us on Instagram, we're on Instagram at whiteside_tactical. So with that said, it's been an hour and 6 minutes. So I want to keep anybody else up. Like I said before, thank you all for joining this live. We did a lot. I loved it. Very interactive. I do like that interactive. Instead of just sound like I'm talking to a TV, I actually get to talk to people. So I do like that portion of it. Like I say, next week or in our next live, we're actually going to talk about PCOS, endometriosis, and fibroids. With that said, you all have a good evening, and we will see you in our next live. If you have any questions, just hit us up on our email. Have a good one.
All right. I'll be at the next live.